I'm the father of two young women, so there's a part of me that would be absolutely delighted to see TikTok banned. It is a scarily addictive app with 150 million US users, including 2 out of 3 teenagers. But the more carefully I think about it, the more I worry. And when I look at the legislation being proposed that would enable the government to ban TikTok, I see a frightening Orwellian law that should send chills down every American's spine. The argument for banning TikTok is straightforward. It's owned by a Chinese company and could be forced to obey the diktats of the Chinese government. That is an appropriate concern, even though there is no evidence that this has ever happened. What malign behavior could TikTok engage in? First, it could collect data from its users and send that over to Beijing. But if Beijing wants that information, it has many, many ways to get it. All the most popular apps collect some kind of personal user data, and they all share with third parties. There is a much better way to solve this problem, a comprehensive data privacy law that would protect all Americans' data and give people the right to stop companies from using, misusing, and selling it. Unfortunately, taking on big tech is a much more difficult battle than bashing China. Most technologists I spoke to felt it would be simple to block information transfers by housing all data in US servers and monitoring its use, something TikTok has already committed to doing. Google and other American tech platforms operate in Europe under similar data restrictions. There might even be better techniques that do not artificially divide data by geography. The second fear about TikTok is that it would transmit anti-American information through its platform, becoming a subtle vehicle for Chinese propaganda. So how would we feel if we learned that a Chinese media company has started a cable news channel that broadcasts sometimes anti-American messages? That is already legal. The United States hasn't banned China's CCTV, or for that matter, Qatar's Al Jazeera, both government-owned media platforms. If we ban TikTok, will we also ban Chinese media companies from distributing pamphlets or books in the United States? Will we ban all Chinese video game companies, which are giants in the industry? The premise of an open society is that people should be free to consume what information they want, and that we are stronger for it. A bipartisan group of senators has put forward legislation that would make it easy to ban any company in which any foreign adversary, such as China, has any interest, which would cover almost any company that has any operations in China or several other countries. This law would give virtually unlimited powers to the administration to prevent or punish any company that has tech or information products or services that, in the administration's view, pose an undue or unacceptable risk to the national security of the US or the safety of US persons. If men were angels, James Madison wrote in the Federalist Papers, no government would be necessary. It does not take a particularly skeptical view of government to be terrified by the idea of giving it that much power. Imagine Donald Trump as president with these tools at his disposal. We're living in times when state governments are already banning books by the hundreds, when speech is considered a weapon, and when politicians openly talk about shutting down dangerous ideas. Incidentally, as Fox News anchor Laura Ingraham fulminates against TikTok, she might want to keep in mind that Fox's former parent company, News Corp, was granted a waiver from existing restrictions on foreign ownership of media platforms. Rupert Murdoch, by the way, argued that such a waiver wasn't even necessary, presumably because he believed Americans should get free flows of information no matter their country of origin. I support many of the administration's efforts to compete with China by investing in building at home, by shoring up alliances abroad, by restricting China's access to the highest level technologies, and by building up our military deterrent. But the key to America's success and dynamism decade after decade has been its openness, innovation, and belief in the vigorous contest of ideas, products, and services. That's why our technology tends to be better than that coming out of closed societies. We should not lose that confidence in a panic over one Chinese app. For years, we believed, perhaps mistakenly, that as China opened up economically, it would become more like us. But look at where we are today. We've embarked on central economic planning with massive subsidies to industry, and now we're proposing draconian restrictions on the free flow of information. It seems that we are becoming more like the Chinese every day.